morning, grinders. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka BlenderHD, if you want to follow me on Twitter. And today is Tuesday, September 26th. We'll be taking a look at the MLB slate on DraftKings and FanDuel today, as well as some props and pick'em. We only got about 5 more days left of the MLB regular season. Then we'll be heading into the playoffs. We'll have NFL content this week. MMA is off this week. Maybe talk a little bit about soccer maybe on Friday, possibly. But hit those thumbs up buttons. Give me the thummy thumbs here in the morning. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. And if we're talking about MLB and we're talking about props and pick'em, we got the guy in here for you. Will Priester, Chief Justice. What's up? Taco Tuesday, right? I always live for Taco Tuesday. Get your $25 promos in for Prize Picks. Let's talk a little bit about using your taco for people that may not be aware of the best ways to use the projections on Prize Picks. That, I mean, I don't know about you, but like the best payouts odds wise are typically on Prize Picks, like the 5s and the 6s. And it seems daunting. It seems like, oh my God, am I going to get 6 out of 6 for 25x? If I only get 5, it's only a 2x. Typically, the tacos are priced so well that, like, if you did a 5-pick flex with the taco at $25, to me, I think that's the best balance between not having to hit 6, also getting a good amount of EV.
Yeah, the variance versus the upside.
I know you do the video where it's like, okay, this is where we pair the taco with, but like those 2 picks don't pay out the way that they should for the expected value of the 5 picks. So do you always use your tacos with 5 picks, or do you always go with the 6 and you don't care?
I'm 5 and 6, and that's mostly it on Prize Picks. Like that's mostly it. I'm always trying to balance out the variance, and I'll tell everyone just straight off, and we mentioned this a little bit pre-show. To me, the board sucks today, so I'm just kind of going to be hunting for value late. This is where for me, Blender, this is where my handicapping skills, I think, are going to have to come into play with these tacos today, unless I decide to spread it out with some NFL, which I can also do. But obviously it's a baseball show, and we're going to keep it baseball, but.
No, we don't have to keep it baseball. I mean, if there's stuff in NFL, I mean, they have some early projections out for NFL. We could take a look at the stuff on Prize Picks. One of the best tools that we have here at RotoGrinders that helps you out the most is for all the major sports, we have statistical projections here at RotoGrinders. So you could go, if Steve would show it on the screen, like we have our plate IQ projections. Like you could get a CSV of this if you want to play around with it in Excel. But here's all of our statistical mean. Remember, these are mean projections. They're a little bit different than medians. And you could go through and you could see, it even shows you like underdog points, Prize Picks points based on the scoring system. It'll show you like for pitchers, strikeouts and hits allowed and walks and earned runs. You could go through all of this if you want, but we also have a Chrome extension that all of this information just gets overlaid on Prize Picks itself and on Underdog. You'll see here, all of our projections are there for all the sports that we have statistical projections for. So if you're a RotoGrinders premium member, right, and as Will disappears because he has to up his premium subscription in order to get this Chrome extension. I don't know where he went, but if you're a RotoGrinders premium member, you get this overlay, which makes it even easier. So you could just go on your desktop, go on Prize Picks, and it will show you our mean. Remember, these are mean projections across everything everything that we have calculated for. So even like pitcher fantasy score, you can see here. You wait a second, and there you go. Bing. You see the RotoGrinders logo? It's right there. You could go to hits allowed. It'll go bang. There you go. Here's our statistical projection, and these get updated. These get updated throughout the day as obviously lineups come in, weather changes, umpire changes, everything like that. That makes it so much easier for you. We also have a Prize Picks an underdog, and as well as full props and pick 'em package, where our team has kind of already done the work, has already gone through our own statistical projections as well as expert analysis, and given you like this is what we've taken, and you have to get on these pretty quickly. I mean, Will's back. I mean, like I have like I've gotten into a routine, especially during baseball season, Will,
Mm-hmm.
of before I go to sleep, I check the boards. First
Yeah.
thing I wake up in the morning, I check the board. It's like even before like the alarm goes off, I wipe my eyes. I'm like, okay, I'm up for the day. I'm up. I'm still lying down. I'm still in bed, right? Going, okay. I got plenty of time before the show in the morning or whatever. No, I don't go to Twitter, right? I don't go check my email or anything like that. No, first thing I do is I go to Prize Picks and Underdog,
Right.
projections, and I go, what has been put up since I went to sleep, and what should I be taking before it goes away? And also check to see what overnight, if something moved since I took it the night before. And that's always a good sign. If you took something at like under 6.5 and now you woke up and it's 6, that's probably a sign that you're getting the best of it. And if you do that consistently over the course of an entire season, you're probably going to show a prop.
Yeah, absolutely. And and Blender, it's weird. Like sometimes I think people, especially sometimes in the prop shop, they like to get into this banter of projections versus the books versus gut. And the thing about it is, if you know how you want to approach the slate, we're all going to have different times that we attack. So, for instance, when we're on the same side of things, like we're all going to be doing the same thing. Like for instance, I'm just going to use this as an example. Okay, just as an example, Zach Eflin is someone that I know would have moved. Like I think he hit the board at 5.5.
Yeah, I got it. I got it last night at 5. I got under 5.5.
Right. He got it, and he bumped it. It's now bumped down to 5. But if you're in the camp that you want the over, then you need to wait. Like don't take the 5.5. You just wait. It's going to go up. And let me at least kind of tell people, you can just look at the lines on the sports books, and it'll give you a rough idea of what's going to move in what direction. You look at projection, you look at like especially if you got SAO, you can look across all these books, and if Eflin is somewhere around, as an example, plus 120 to go over 5.5, but the under is like 150. You already know that's going to drop, right? So you just wait. You just wait until it drops, and then you can take it. I'm just throwing those numbers out as an example.
Right, and like for instance, if we take a look here, remember all the sportsbook props are all half a point. So PrizePicks and Underdog doesn't mind putting up the even numbers, and you'll get some pushes. That's why it's push picks. The only thing with pushes that I'd be aware of is that when in doubt, if you're like 50-50 on whether or not you should take a projection on PrizePicks or Underdog, is that the bigger your card is, the more that a push is fine, and the smaller your card is, the less that a push is fine. You don't want to get stuck in a situation, especially an Underdog, where the Underdog, the 3-pick powers,
you want to avoid that push.
Yeah, but they pay well when you hit. Yeah. But if you have multiple push possibilities, you don't want to get paid on the two. Like you don't want it to be DMP'd or voided the first, like tied, and then get paid only on the 2-pick. You'd rather, if it's a 5 and then you get paid on a 4, that isn't as big of a deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Same thing on PrizePicks. Like, dude, a lot of times when I'm on some of the even numbers, I'm much more likely to just go for 6s, knowing that like it's quite possible that out of 4 of these even numbers, maybe I push 1 or 2. So I'm willing to put on the risk of having the lower payout, but I just don't want to get into. I don't want to get paid on a 3-pick on PrizePicks or a 2-pick or an Underdog or a 2-pick on PrizePicks. So these even numbers. So when you go to the sports books, like what Will said. Like here's scores and odds, and I'll show you the best odds on each side on the legal books. And you can see here, it's like Hunter Green over 5.5, under 5, like all the like heavy vig. You could see here that like it should be around 6, and maybe it's leaning more towards, maybe this goes down to 5.5, right? But you see Lucas Giolito over 6.5 plus 105, under 6.5 minus 110.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about.
No big line is like very close, which means Lucas Giolito's number probably ain't moving anywhere.
Yeah, no, not much. Where is Eflin at currently? Because he's already bumped. I just want to hear that one because we use that one as an early example.
Right, Eflin right now the best numbers on what is that? Caesars BetMGM plus 105 over, minus 129 under.
Okay, yeah. So
Rivers.
Yeah, there you have it. Yeah, there you have it. I will say too, and I think we've talked about this too, Blender. When I get into those push situations, and I remember I did this earlier in the year with golf, when they had, I think everybody for some reason came out at like 4 birdies or something to that effect, but we were kind of on unders that day. I believe it was the Open. What I do on Underdog to kind of increase my upside, I'll actually play both segments. So I'll go a 5 pick with no insurance if I've got all pushes, because I'm trying to increase the payout, but I'm doing that when I'm extremely confident in all plays, right? And then I'll go a 5, no insurance, 5 with insurance. And if both hit, great. But I had that situation in golf earlier this year where I think I got 1 push and 4 hits. So I still ended up with a 10x and a 6x because I went with both variations just in case. So that's just another small strategy. You don't need to do that every time. I'm not advocating that you do that every time, but in certain instances, I do think it's advantageous to run both variations.
Well, I mean, it's just whatever your standard, whatever the amount that you normally would put down, just split that in half and do it twice. I mean, sometimes I do
exactly what I did. I went a half unit on both. Yeah.
I do that on Prize Picks a lot. A lot of times I'm round robining stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I have 3 or 4 that I'm confident in, that I'm getting the best of it. And then maybe I have 2 or 3 that close to the line. And then it's just like, oh, well, I'll take the 4 that is the most off. And then that 5th one, I just rotate the other 3. Right. So instead of like, if I normally would put $30 down, I would do 10, 10, 10 with each of those single ones. Right. Instead of 30 on each. Right. Because now you're putting more money down. Yeah.
Yeah. And let me just say this too, since we're talking about it, I do have one on Underdog that I'm on today.
Okay.
That I think is advantageous. It is Lucas Giolito at 16.5 pitching outs. I mean, he's 17.5, I think, most places. So getting him at 16.5, I feel good about that. I did check the bat as well. I think the bat had him around 17.5. But once again, I think he's in a spot where he can get through this Cincinnati team, especially as he gets to the bottom of the order. Once again, I know the projection is going to be close, but that is one that I like. So
it's 17.5 on Prize Picks.
Right.
16.5 on Underdog.
Yeah.
That's always that's another heuristic to also use for these sites, especially the major ones.
Yeah.
I know that we have like Vivid and Sleeper and Fliff and some other ones, but Prize Picks and Underdog, very common in sports betting, that the more liquidity that a site takes, the more efficient their numbers become. And if you see that there's a discrepancy between Prize Picks and Underdog, that typically means something is it's another signal. It's not like something like that you look at and you go, I'm just going to find all the discrepancies and take the ones in whatever direction I want. It's more of just a signal of, if you're already looking at a number like that Eflin number.
Yeah.
Right. Like Eflin opened at 5.5 on both sites, on both Underdog and Prize Picks, but Prize Picks moved it to 5 much quicker than Underdog moved it to 5. I'm not sure. Does Underdog even still? I mean, earlier in this morning, Eflin was still at 5.5. Right? It's now at 5 on Underdog. But once I woke up in the morning and saw that Eflin was still at 5.5 on underdog, but it was down to 5 on prize picks, you know what that made me want to do? Make a few more Eflin underdog ones.
Yeah.
Right. Because I see that, I am hitting in the right direction.
Yeah.
One site did not move enough in time. Let me take it. Wake up in the morning and I don't see much moved. I kind of take my hands off the keyboard and go, let's wait for more stuff to come out. Let's wait for these fantasy point numbers to come out.
Absolutely.
Let's wait for the pitching, because they'll put up other stuff. And it's like, okay. And then let's see where the market moves. So, like, I mean, you do for scoresandodds.com, you do a lot of, like handicapping, the expert analysis. Mm-hmm. I'm much more of a, the market mover type, top down.
Yeah.
Like, I'll compare it to projections to get an initial lean, and then I'll see what the market does. And I go, well, Bradish, I believe, like, here's another one. I don't know if they've moved it, but Bradish on prize picks is 35.5. No, this has not moved. And on underdog,
he's still 35, I think, last I checked.
Okay, no, because Kyle Bradish on underdog was 33.5.
Gotcha.
Okay, now obviously I want the lower anyway, but
understood.
Like on underdog, like if you did want the higher, like you would have taken it at 33.5. Now that it's even, even Hunter Green, I think it's both even now. Sometimes you get these 1 or 2 fantasy point differences.
Yeah.
And if you have access to both sites, like I don't create the same cards on both sites. I create the cards with the best numbers on both sites. So if I could get 1 extra fantasy point leeway on prize picks to underdog, I just do it all on prize for my prize picks.
Here's the thing though. And see, this is the trick between underdog and it's a little nuance, Blender. I know it's a small nuance, but it has saved me on several occasions on underdog. So if I want overs, let's talk through this, Blender.
If you want hires, you mean?
Yeah, excuse me. If I want hires,
I'm going to be very nitpicky.
Yeah. If I want higher than the fantasy point projection, I'm typically going to lean underdog. Let me tell you why. On underdog, we get an extra fantasy point for the quality start. So where on prize picks, you're getting standard FanDuel scoring, underdog, you're getting that 1 extra fantasy point for the quality start.
You also get 1 less point for the win. So on underdog, it's 5-5, and on prize picks, it's 6-4. So the win is 6 and the quality.
Right.
It's like FanDuel scoring, but on underdog, and obviously it's much more, but it's more likely. The win is a little bit more variant than the
correct,
right?
Correct.
If he goes 6 innings and doesn't give up, more than 3 earned runs,
right?
It doesn't matter if his team's winning or not, and you're going to get that extra point.
Correct. He could leave the game up 5-1 and still be over fantasy points. The game could finish and they could lose 7-8, but that's not going to affect that extra fantasy point you get. So I know that's a small nuance, but it is beneficial. It has worked for me, especially with a guy like Kenta Maeda. For whatever reason, I've been saved on underdog with Maeda overs, where he's at 32.5 on both sites, and because of that quality start, he gets 33. And on prize picks, he got 32.
Right.
So it's a small nuance, but I did want to point that out. And also, typically underdog's fantasy points are going to be a little bit lower initially for about the first 5 to 10 minutes. You need to be ready. It usually hits the board somewhere, I think, between 9 and 10, somewhere between there. So if you miss it, you're done. But if you can catch it early, typically they're off 2 to 3 fantasy points, and that's where you can kind of make your case in the fantasy point world on underdog, between underdog and prize picks. So just want to point that out. But I will say.
So what else? So what else do you got, Wilt? You mentioned the Giolito one. Anything else on the board? Let me be frank with the audience, is that the value that's on the board right now is limited. Now you're flying by the seat of your pants, kind of now.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the stuff is kind of efficient to our plate IQ projections / the bat projections. But
So
I mean, I know our expert. I mean, Michael King. I know Keith and I believe Justin Carlucci both have the King over 5.5, and I'm is how many pitches? I mean, the thing with Michael King is that, like, sure, over 5.5 seems good from a talent perspective, but when I see pitch count, projected pitch counts in the 70s and 80s, that over
well,
that over makes me a little nervous.
yeah. Now let me get into some handicapping stuff here. So if I'm on the board right now and you're saying, Chief, I want to get some stuff in, like, what can I get in that I still feel comfortable with, even though the projections are about even? I would say Gausman at 7.5 strikeouts. I take more than that projection. He's got the skills to do it. Now, I'm not going to utilize that right now.
That may actually be the taco today.
Correct. Like, I'm just going to wait. So that's why I'm kind of waiting for the taco. Something else that I like. This was more on underdog. We've got Reese Olson at 16.5 pitching outs. I think Kansas City's lineup is continuing to decline as we go throughout the season. He was at 5.5 strikeouts. He's already bumped up to 6 at 16.5 pitching outs. I do like that one. The projections are going to be close. I think on the bat this morning it was around 15.6, which is basically saying he only goes 5 innings. But I don't think the Kansas City lineup is overpowering enough as we get down to the dog days of MLB. So at 16.5, this is a guy that has, completed 6 innings and had some strikeout stuff along the way. So I like more than that particular projection. And then we've got Aaron Nola at 17.5 pitching outs on underdog. I like higher than that projection. So those are some ones where I'm getting into more handicapping. The projections aren't going to – well, I actually think the projections are going to agree on Nola, at least on the bat, I think. I think the bat had him at basically 18.2, if I remember.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not that much of a gap. I mean,
right.
I prefer the pitching out ones. The problem that I have with the pitching outs, you're obviously you're handicapping, right?
Yeah.
So you're going from a very, very, gut approach, which is fine. I go with a much more holistic macro approach that I prefer, if possible, not to take 16.5s. Right?
I got you.
15 because we see this. 15.5 is fine. 17.5 is fine. Obviously 18.5 is fine also. But the stuff where they're coming out in the middle of the 6th inning is that if you took a distribution of all just an average pitcher distribution, like for every pitcher, not specific pitchers, just all of them, that you'd see, because remember on Prize Picks and Underdog, you need to satisfy like a 55+% implied probability in order to be worth it to play on a 5 pick or a 4 with insurance or something on Underdog. That the amount of outcomes that are like the difference between 15.5 and 16.5, you're not gaining much. Think very similarly to what people say about like football spreads, right? Mm-hmm. There's a big difference between 6.5 and 7.5 on a spread, or 2.5 and 3.5. Those key numbers, because so many games, if you look at the distribution of scoring in the NFL, that teams will win more often than other numbers by 3 or by 7 or by 10 or by 14 and stuff like that. In the pitching outs department, you get the same thing, that the extra out from 15.5 to 16.5 is not worth that much. And the one from 16.5 to 17.5 isn't worth that much, because essentially I view 15.5 as in they're going to pitch 18 outs. Like, right? They're going to pitch the entire 6th inning. And then, or they don't pitch the entire 6th inning, because the amount of outcomes in that distribution, there's so many of them that one out kind of average across the board without thinking of specific pitchers, that if you just blindly close your eyes and didn't care about the specific matchup or pitcher or anything, that if I see that, the pitching outs are 1 off on a 16.5, like I just don't bother taking those. I'd much rather see that, the projections have pitching outs at like almost 18, and the number is 15.5. And I'm like, okay, that's fine for the higher. And the same thing where it's 17.5, or it's 18.5. And then it's like, oh, it's a 15.5, 16 projection. And I'm like, okay, that's easy. I'm going to take the lower because he has to pitch the 7th inning, right? So, like,
absolutely.
those are the key numbers. And
I did the same thing with Bradish this morning. He opened at 17, bumped up to 18. I said, great. Now I'll just take less than 18.5 pitching outs. It's basically the same thing I did this morning. But here's what I will say though, like in terms of how I view it when I'm getting slate specific like today. Once again, with the Royals, their lineup is not what it's been early. Like they've got these other guys in there now, and so they're striking out a ton, and they don't walk a ton. And so for me, when I've got a lineup that strikes out and doesn't walk, mentally when I'm going through the game and I'm saying, okay, this guy's 22, 23, 20, it's going to increase Olsen's efficiency. And so at 16.5 for me, Blender, when I'm viewing this, in my mind, that's a discount because he should be 17.5 today, not 16. You get what I'm saying? So it's like the reverse of the average, and I'm getting really down into the weeds here. But when I feel like a guy is going to go 6 innings based on all those other little factors, then that's where I decide to hop in there. Kind of the same thing with Giolito. At 16.5, I feel like that's a little bit more of a discount today. And obviously he's at 17.5 on Prize Picks, which is a little bit different. But that's how I view it when I'm getting down into handicapping, because then I'm kind of looking at things on my own, and I'll look at the projections as well just to kind of get a read and just try to average it out of my mind and say, okay, do I think the projections are right today or do I think they're wrong today? And so we've got Olsen at 15.5. I think that projection is wrong today. I think he's going 6 innings, so that's how I weed it out when I'm handicapping.
Right, and sometimes I'm on the other side of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what I did? I waited for Olsen's strikeout number to go up to 6, and then I took the lower.
Right, and guess what? That's exactly what you should have done. Like when you want, see that's the beauty of this particular scenario. I took Olsen more than 5.5. Now at 6, I'm just going to leave it alone. Like I have
the bad projections have Olsen as lower than 6.
Right. So for me,
but the thing is, Will, because it's an even number, I'm putting them more in 5s and 6s.
Absolutely.
Than I am in like my like I have it more on Prize Picks than I do on Underdog.
Yeah, absolutely. But those are some that I'm on today. Michael King is I'm just not touching Michael King. I will say I think another good one that I caught this morning. I think if he's still, let me see if this one is there and then I'll talk about it. I just want to make sure first. Well, it's already bumped. See, Reed Detmers was at 4.5 hits. It's at 5.
Oh, no, yeah, that moved last night. That was
okay. Yeah. So never mind. But so that was not going to be applicable today. But
yeah,
that
Detmers was at, when I woke up in the morning, I saw Detmers 5. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to check, but so we've missed that one. So never mind. So no Detmers. And then I guess what we'll do is for everybody that's listening, you wait on your tacos, you wait on your discounts. And then you just got to see what's advantageous. I know some of the overlays there. I think Aaron Nola was at 4.5 hits, and our projections had him, I think, closer to 6 than 4.5, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take
a look. Hits allowed. Nola 4.5. Yeah, our projections have 5.95.
Yeah. So even though he's facing Pittsburgh, and I think he's going to have a good game, I still think he goes 6 innings. That does not mean he won't give up 5 hits. So. Right. That's one that I'll be on when the tacos come out. I'll be participating in that one for sure.
Right, and then you check it on Underdog.
Yep.
Right, to see what they have. Right, Nola still 4.5 here.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the thing that I'm checking for is if Underdog had it at 5, I'd be getting the 4.5 on Prize Picks as quickly as I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's like you do it as a double check. It's not something I first look at. It's like, oh, this projection seems off into a certain direction on Prize Picks. So let me see what it is on Underdog. Does Underdog have it a little bit higher or a little bit lower? Yeah. And if it's the same, I take a little bit of a pause. But if it's different, I go, okay, my confidence level has gone up.
Yeah, and I will say one of my good buddies in Prop Shop, Kyle put me on this one. Josiah Gray is at 2 walks in the Washington-Baltimore game. Now look, he's at plus money on the books. I understand. So if you've got the books, you take it there. I think he's plus 120, plus 140, something like that. Like that's where you get it in. But I do think this is a good one. I think the projections had him 2.5, 2.6. But this is a guy that has had
plus 120 on the over 1.5 walks allowed on the books.
At 2.5.
The books don't have a 2. They don't hang a 2, right?
I saw it on Flip this morning.
Flip. Okay, I'm talking about. It's not like DraftKings or FanDuel.
Yeah.
Right. They don't have even numbers on these things.
Yeah. But I think I think at 2, I'm willing to roll that one in some of your larger cards. And once again, now that you hear me talk about this should tell you where the projections are today on the board. A lot of them have just moved and kind of priced us out of participating until we get some other plays. But I still think at 2, I think it's worth the risk in a 5 to take more than 2 walks. He's really been struggling. I mean, his walk rate, let me give it, because I looked at it before I hopped on it. Where the Washington? Here we go. Yeah, Josiah Gray's at 11% walk rate on the season, walking lefties 13%, righties 9%, 10% the last 30 days, walking lefties at 15%. He's going to see his fair share of lefties. So I that sold me enough to hop on the 2 walks more than that projection. Right. But I wouldn't play that in like a 3 pick. That's a 5 for sure, even on underdog. Right. Definitely a 5 or a 6 on prize picks, but that's another.
I already have the under 4.5 strikeouts for Gray.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right. I mean, it's not great. It's not great. It's something to throw in. It's like you get to the point where you want 5s, and it's like you have 4 that you're fine with, and then it's like, let me find something that's on the line, because it's more beneficial to have a 5 on a card, even if the last one is kind of like just meh. Then have 4, because you get paid out so much better on the 5s and the 6s.
Yeah, same thing for Zach Thompson. I think Zach Thompson is on the line today as well at 4.5. I'm on less than that projection. That's when I'll probably pair up in some of the larger flexes. But like I said, this is kind of the game we have to play sometimes. If he gets 5, okay, I wash my hands. I come back tomorrow. It's not going to make or break me, but I feel it feels he's more likely to pick up 4 than 5, and so that's another one. I think the bat might have been right at 4.5, or maybe it was at 3. I can't remember.
It's around that number. It's around.
Yeah, I did check it this morning, but so that's another one which fringy. I'll probably get in on it to kind of have a little bit of exposure. But other than that, that's
right. Like as Nate Brancher pointed out in chat, and hit that thumbs up button. You know how much I love the thummy thumbs. Laporta just dropped 5 yards. If he got his under earlier today, he went from 47.5 to 42.5.
Yeah.
Like, that's the name of it. Like, dude, like that there were numbers on. I had a great NFL Sunday for prize picks. I hit 5 6s and 4 5s.
Incredible.
Because I round robin and pair stuff together. So like Mahomes and Kelsey unders, Pickett overs. But the thing about, I think Pickett's closing number on prize picks would have busted. Gotcha. But I got him at over 219.5. And I think he closed at like 230 something or whatever. And
yeah, the time to get on NFL is right now, depending on which
now through Thursday.
Yeah.
Like Will, I think tomorrow a lot of projections will come out.
And they'll adjust
on stuff tomorrow. But then you also on Friday, like they don't put up all the markets. So like on Friday, you'll get a lot more of the secondary markets, like Zach Moss and rushing attempts on both sides almost felt like cheating.
Yeah.
On Sunday. So I had that. I had Alexander Madison, like rushing attempts. Like they put up these numbers and I go, the projections have like the attempts like 4 or 5 higher than this number.
It was the same thing I did with Christian McCaffrey last week. Christian McCaffrey, I think, opened it either 15.5 or 16.5. And I said, oh, that's probably wrong. Like they're not really sparing him in the rushing attempts, especially when I knew Ayuk was going to be out as well. Like a game they should have been in control of. I think he finished with 18 or 19. But my point is, like I'm saying that to support what you're saying, they were definitely too low, and that's a category where the market's still inefficient right now. So if you get on them on time, you can really find some really nice ones.
And it doesn't move. It rarely moves because I don't think many people take advantage of those markets.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because I always get freaked out because I want to see that it move because it shows that I have market agreement. So when I'm taking Moss over 14.5 rushing attempts on Friday, and then by Sunday morning it's still at 14.5 rushing attempts, I go, my inclination isn't like, well, I got to put more on it. It's more of like I got to hold back because I didn't see any market agreement. And then I take my head and I go, why? Like, dude, the blitz has him at like 18 rushing attempts. Like,
that's where a guy like me, I double down.
I say, moving.
Yeah, see, I'll look and I'll say, wait a minute. This is still way too low. Like, and here's why it was too low last week, because I did have a little bit, but it's because even though they were playing Baltimore, he's the lead. He is the lead back.
The only back.
Yeah. They Deion Jackson was gone. Like he was out of the building. They released him. So that was a mistake because it was his second start, Blender. And so the law of averages couldn't kick in to push him to 16. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He didn't have enough data. And so that's another thing too. Like sometimes even with the bat or the blitz, if there's not enough data, it's going to be conservative. And so if you know the situation, you can take advantage of that. And that's one of those situations where, we were able to get in on it. And you just have to know that going in.
Want to quickly look at the DFS slate for?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll take a couple of minutes on this. Feel free to hit that thumbs up button. Send your questions in the chat. If you're listening to this later or watching this later, which a lot of you do, you could send in your questions to the show, to the mailbag, questions@theoryofdfs.com. You got DFS strategy questions about any sport, props, pick 'em, anything about the tools here at RotoGrinders, just send them in. I answer them all. Even if even if it takes if it's a show 2 weeks from now, I will always email you back. So you don't have to listen and watch the show every day to see if your question gets taken. I will always email you to say, hey, I covered your question on today's show. Why don't you go check it out? So feel free to send in your questions to the mailbag, questions@theoryofdfs.com. So for DraftKings today, I mean, it's a pretty decently sized slate. We've got this weird difference in the slate though. Like FanDuel doesn't have the Coors game.
It's not including Coors, and DraftKings is. So I did want to point that out. That's important to know.
It doesn't seem like we have. I mean, on DraftKings, it seems like you have Kevin Gausman at 11.5. Like he's the stud. I mean, he's projected 4 points better than any other pitcher on the slate. Mm-hmm. But then after him, this feels like the type of slate where there's a lot of viable pitchers, but you wouldn't feel comfortable about any of them. And I think to save the money over Gausman, you're going to have to take some shots on some people. I mean, I take a look at the plate IQ projections. Michael King is only 6K. So even if he only goes 5 innings, I mean, he can strike out 6. Zach Thompson. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Zach Thompson's or Zach Davis or Paul. I know your favorite, Paul Blackburn against Minnesota, right? But I mean, some of these Corey Bradford, Tanner Hawk. I mean, a lot of pitchers on the slate. If you take a look at his pitch count numbers, outside of Gausman, I don't know if any of these pitchers go over 100 pitches. So it caps a lot of these pitchers' upside. That if it's going to cap their upside, I might as well just pay down.
Yeah. I don't hate Blackburn today at 6,700. And I don't play Blackburn every day, but in a matchup where he should still kind of be able to keep the ball on the ground, a team that will strike out a little bit more than league average, I don't hate him at 6,700. He's not the top of my list, but I definitely think he's in consideration. I feel like Christian Javier may pick up some steam as we get closer to the end of the slate because he's 8K facing Seattle. So I feel like he might pick up some steam. We've got him around 10% right now in terms of ownership,
But
I
nothing
think.
really stands out ownership-wise outside of like Gausman, maybe.
Yeah.
Bailey. I mean, everyone likes playing pitchers against the A's, but I think 9,100 for Bailey Ober.
Yeah, too expensive.
Right, especially for his pitch count, because I mean, he's someone that even against the A's, if he gets into trouble in one inning, like
he's coming out.
He ain't
He
going
won't make it.
six.
Yeah, he won't make it. Yeah, he won't make it. I will say this. I think now Blender, and see, here's where DFS is almost like handicapping, but in a different way. Right? So I'm not on any type of Justin Steele projections today in terms of fantasy points, strikeout, anything. But I think if there's one guy that has the upside, you got to know Justin Steele's not getting ownership. One, because he's facing the Braves, but he's got as much upside as Kevin Gausman if it all comes together for him. So I'm saying that in large field tournaments, I do have some interest in Justin Steele despite this atrocious matchup because he
could go 100 pitches. I mean, like
right, yeah, and he's essentially the only other guy that we've seen consistently recently 7 to 10 strikeouts like that. So that's really all it is. Just like, hey, what if the Braves just have this one meltdown day where they don't hit well and he's picking up all these strikeouts? Like, he could essentially get you there for almost 2K cheaper. So I think in large field tournaments, there's some value on Steele, and nobody's going to like it.
As long as he's 2%, 4% owned.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If he's 15%, like, hey, I'm not playing Justin Steele.
Well, he's not going to be. I can tell you he's not going to be.
No, I know. We've got him around 3, 4. So I did want to point that out for tournaments. I think that's a good tournament play. Even against my favorite team.
How about bats? How about stacks?
So for me, in terms of stacks, I always want to play the best teams. The problem is some of the best teams are in rough spots. I would have been all over Arizona today. We're going to see how the weather shakes out, but I think them against Uranium is a really good spot for us. That's probably going to be my favorite spot as long as the weather shakes out. And I'm going to have my fair share of Cubs against Bryce Elder. That's another spot. Same game as the Braves. Probably some of the best weather. It's about, it's projected to be around 80 degrees, which is, going to be some of the best weather on the slate. On DraftKings, I don't play Coors Blender, so I just fade Coors every slate. That's just my personal thing because, let me say this. Whenever the ownership gets out of control, it's getting a full fade. And so most times I will fade because the ownership may be out of control today because the Dodgers are facing Feltman. I don't mind some Texas against Reed Detmers. That's been another team that's been good this season. And I also don't mind Houston against George Kirby. So despite the fact that Kirby's been serviceable, pretty good this season, I always like to take good teams in slightly tougher spots because they're not going to get the ownership. Like, I'm looking at Houston's ownership right now. No one's above 5%, and they're expensive, so I'm not anticipating them garnering much ownership when we got a game in Coors.
You can see here in our Plate IQ current Plate IQ projections. Remember, these projections get updated multiple times throughout the day as starting lineups come out, how weather and umpire changes and everything, and news and pitch counts and whatever. That our mean optimal lineup, which is something that you wouldn't play in GPPs. 5 Diamondbacks, right? 5 Diamondbacks in it, and we have to see that weather report. Roth has it at yellow orange, so that game that's not that game that doesn't start in the beginning of the slate, right? Right, Arizona 7:40. Okay, 7:40 Eastern isn't that bad.
Yeah,
so we may have information, especially if it's postponed. We'll probably get that before lock, but what I would suggest everyone do, tune into Crunch Time, right? It's free, right? 5 o'clock Eastern on this channel, on this YouTube channel. Subscribe. You'll get Grinders Live. Then at 6:20, as presented by FanDuel, you get Crunch Time, and Kevin Roth hosts, and he's the weather guy. So he'll show you radar, and he'll go through and give his prediction based on his proprietary models of what What the probabilities of certain situations happening with weather. Of course, his original report you could get for free here at RotoGrinders. Go to the weather page, rotogrinders.com/weather/MLB. And he puts this up early in the morning. He updates this, like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then he gives you all the updates from there. I mean, obviously on Twitter as well. He does that as a service, and then on Crunch Time, you could ask him questions of like, what do you really think? I mean, it's gonna be a key spot. It's the most. I mean, it's orange in his warning color. So, like he says, my current thinking is that storms over the ballpark at first pitch will trigger a late start, but then they lift northeast over the lake shortly thereafter. That's putting a lot of faith in timing of forecast models this far out. So we'll need to revisit later. Cool winds in from the left center at near 10 miles an hour. So this will be a game that you're going to probably need to check out Crunch Time. And maybe it'll be chalky and it ends up, they're having problems with it. Or it could be one of those types of things, Will, where everyone's too scared to play the game and it projects well, and then you get like half the ownership that you should get on the game.
Yeah. A tale of two cities.
So anything else MLB today? DFS props, pick 'em?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah, that's mostly where I am for today's slate.
For as many MLB games are on the board today, not as much value as I expected. Yesterday were 4 games, so I know I'm going into the pick'em streets going, this is going to be sparse to find 5.
And I actually had pretty good value yesterday. I was able to get Schmidt at 5.5 early. I did take I took 2 hitters yesterday as well, just because I thought the spots were fairly good for them versus the projections. Like I took Corbin Carroll at more than 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Mm-hmm. And then I also took Marcus Semien. He was at 7.5 fantasy points in a pretty good spot. Projections, were pretty good. So I took that one as well. I took Snell more than 17.5 pitching outs. I took Verlander more than 17.5 pitching outs. And I took and I got this one early because once I got in on it, then they pulled it immediately. This was Santander. Sandoval, Pablo Sandoval. I took him less than 17.5 pitches. I didn't think he was getting 6 innings at all, and I think he finished 4. So I got those early.
I mean, he got also he got hurt. Yeah.
He got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt. He would. Will. He walked like 4 guys in 3 innings. He wasn't making the pitches. Yeah. Your pitching outs were safe no matter what. I think he was at like 63 pitches 3 innings in. I think he was fine.
Yeah, so
but he did come out of the game hurt.
Yeah, but I got that one in early. I don't know, 7, 8 more, whatever time it was, and they went in. They were like, "Hey, Sandoval's gone," but he was still on underdog. So if people got it on underdog, they were fine. So yesterday, I was surprised that we had some little value there. For 4 games, I was shocked really. But I put those in early, and I didn't put anything else in. Like that was it. I didn't go back to the wells. Nothing there.
So if you want Will's prize picks and underdog content, you'll have a video tomorrow for NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for
okay.
NFL.
And you post stuff up on Scores and Odds as well, right?
Yep, I post on Scores and Odds, and I post in the Prop Shop. And let me just say
to be clear, the Prop Shop is a free Discord channel, part of the RotoGrinders Discord. You go to rotogrinders.com/Discord, join our Discord. And people could get. I mean, anyone that's watching right now could join the Prop Shot. You don't have to be a premium member or nothing, right?
Yeah, correct.
Just understand it's chaos in there. Just because we let all the riffraff in. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it's not something that you're like, oh, I've missed the chat for 8 hours. Let me go back and read all the messages because
you don't want to do that. You'll miss a lot. Yeah, it's not like Blender's Protected channel where
it's nice little. It feels like I'm in my study, like one of those old timey studies.
Yeah,
like Sherlock, like with all the books behind, nice and quiet, a candle, some whiskey, and then people can come in. And it's like, sit down, You want to have a talk? Let's have a talk.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Prop shop. It's
Yeah.
4 in the morning,
Like
and there's people
party.
yelling about esports.
It's like a house party.
And Valorant stuff, and all over the tennis in the middle of the night.
Tennis has become a huge hit in the prop shop. But let me just say, Blender, because I did want to clear this up about those videos. A lot of times I'm doing 2 picks because they're supposed to be short videos, but really those are choices that I'm saying, hey, take this, pair it with other things that you like. So it's not about locking it down to a 2 pick or anything like that. It's really about you adding it into whatever else you found that you hopefully you weren't on this, and I found something that I can present to you that would be successful.
Right. Yep. So Will, you could follow him on Twitter, Chief Justice 06, NFL stuff tomorrow from him, and you'll be back on the show. Hey, NBA season's coming up, right?
It's coming.
There's nothing better, Will, than talking about an NBA slate at 11 in the morning when 74 people are on the injury report.
Woo! I am not looking forward to having to sweat Anthony Davis leaving a basketball game in the first quarter and not returning. Thank goodness for reboots on Prize Picks.
Well, it's going to be this year in NBA. They're making that policy that like only one star player could rest in a game. I totally think shenanigans. I totally think what you're talking like it'll be the type of thing where they want to rest both like LeBron and AD or something like that. Mm-hmm. And LeBron will start the game, play one shift, and then never come back. Right? And it'll be one of those Kawhi things. Like he'll play 6 minutes to start the game, and then sit. Right? Because they'll pull
the Draymond Green.
They'll
pull the Draymond Green. Draymond got in for the tip-off.
Right, and they
got the ball down the court, and they subbed him. Right. Oh, this is going to be great, but this is going to be so great.
Okay, hit that like button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got Grinders Live later today. Crunch time to follow. I'll be back tomorrow. Noto's back on. We'll be taking a first look at NFL Week 4 slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. So get your questions in. Questions at theoryofdfs.com, and I'll answer them because that's what I do here. Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern on RotoGrinders Today.